Hello, everyone. Welcome to Link to Expert Business Showcase and Good Reads. We do both of them right here on Link to Expert. But today we're going to be doing the Business Showcase. And you guys are listening to New Streaming Network, which is the home of Going Solo, right? Going Solo Media and Going Bold Media and our wonderful radio station, WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. I know you guys hear that all the time, but we have to do our call letters. It's kind of one of the things that we're required to do. So that's why we started out always with the WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. So you guys, we are here today. We're going to be talking about monetizing your expertise, which I'm truly, truly excited about. And I am one of your hosts, just one of the other half, right? I am Cece Shatz. I'm fondly called the Doyenne of Relationship Building, but I am also the president of the New Streaming Network and also the Going Solo Network. And, my good friend here with me, Joanne, she says what she does, right? But Joanne Weiland is my good friend here. She is one of the other half of our host team here. But Joanne, tell us a little bit about yourself because you are really the heart and the soul behind Link to Expert. And so tell us a little bit about you and what you do and why Link to Expert is so important to other people.
Well, most people call me the connector. And there's the other part of the people call me the collaboration expert. So between connecting and collaborating, you can create things. And that's what we want to talk about today.
Mhm.
And we'll talk more about Link to Expert towards the end of the show, but really it's just designed so that you can be seen, be heard, and be known worldwide. Because many, many times we really are good at, something that we call our expertise. But if you don't let the world know that you're what you can do for them, it really doesn't matter how terrific you are, how many books you wrote, or whatever, if nobody even knows it. So
Mhm.
we're going to be talking about that later today, too. But I really think that my purpose in life is to actually help people distribute their information to the people that can hire them, the people that can buy their products, hire them for their services. And so I'm just really excited today because we decided to talk about this. And what I thought we'd start off with is most of us are listening, and I don't really know for a fact, but I even think even if you're not a boomer, but most of us that are boomers, we grew up where our dads went to work, and usually they went to work at a factory or somewhere that they just went every single day. Sometimes, like my dad, it seemed like worked 6 days a week, and they worked long hours, and they were usually exhausted when they came home. Oftentimes, as boomers too, our moms either stayed home and to take care of the kids in the house, or if they did work, they actually also, you know, worked at a factory or something like that. And I'm not putting this down, but many times you would hear these people when you would hear them talk amongst themselves. Anyway, I did as a child, that they weren't really satisfied. They weren't really happy doing what they did every single day, but it was almost like that's all they knew, that's all they could do. And and that was what was even expected of them, because you were supposed to come home with a paycheck to, of course, feed the family, keep the roof over the head and everything like that. So in my case, my parents, I'm going to use as an example today. My dad, he worked at Mack Truck for years, and it was again an assembly line, and he would put, I'm just guessing, the same fender on the same, on the frame of the truck, and every day, and so it really wasn't very challenging. Well, and then my mom, she would had a job often where she worked at a factory that made furniture, so she was the sander. So she would come home covered with sawdust and everything like that. And again, you know, they started talking, and one day my dad just said, this is it, I'm going to start a business repairing cars, because he always also on the side on weekends or whenever he had time off, his buddies would come and say, hey, can you fix my car, Kenny? And before you know it, the whole weekend he was not with us, he was working on somebody's car, but he loved it. So he finally got the nerve to quit and create his own business. And the reason I wanted to tell you about that is because of the fact, not that he worked on cars, but he thought even further, because like, what else could I do? So I'm just going to name a couple of the things that he did, which was really extraordinary for back then, not just leaving the business, the factory, but when he knew that he could work on these cars, and he also realized that he could also do things like, for an example, we bought a property that had an existing junkyard, but he wanted to focus on Volkswagen's Porsche and Audis. So we started buying junk cars. Back then, we called them junk cars. Yes, I'm a
Mhm.
junkie from way back, but now they call them recycled or whatever. But we would buy all these old cars that were smashed or whatever, work with insurance companies, and then we would have this whole yard full of products. So I actually worked there too. For an example, people would call and they need a right front fender for a 67 bug. We would go get it out and then we would sell it. So that was one thing. And that junkyard actually wound up having many times 1,000 cars in it, but they would get so full on our 5 acres that we would have to bring a crusher in and crush them. And then they would actually take that to the scrap yard. But we made money even selling it as scrap. He also would fix up cars and sell them. So I was the one that would also clean the cars, and boy, was he particular. We had to make them just right almost every time. I had to redo it at least once, if not twice. He wanted them to be perfect. People were always raving about how clean Ken Miller Auto Sales cars were. So we were selling cars too. Then we started even buying new parts and having a new parts area where you could actually buy parts for your car. Then we even had a body shop that you could get your body work done too, not just your repairs of your engine, transmission, or inspection. Back then we had inspection too in Pennsylvania. So he just kept diversifying, and he would rebuild people's engines. And he didn't do all this. I want you to know too. He had a team of at least 5 people usually at all times. So he'd hire somebody to rebuild engines, somebody to rebuild transmissions, but everything you wanted to do or know about Volkswagens, Porsche, and Audis. People would come from Pennsylvania, all over Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, 3 different states. And back then, don't forget this, we're talking, in the 70s. People just, I don't know, didn't do all these multiple streams of income because a lot of times, again, they were just stuck at their factory job. And I am not making fun of them. I'm just saying, my dad, I was really proud that he was brave enough to not just leave, but then to think of all these other ways he could make money. And I wanted to use that example today because of the fact that sometimes when we think of today monetizing our expertise, we don't think of always of that. Like, for an example, in my world, most of our experts are consultants or coaches or trainers or authors or facilitators, all those different things. And that's terrific. But I think when you can see in your mind's eye of all the possibilities you could do from just starting with trying to work out of a 2-car garage and doing repairs for people, you can just see that we just have to sometimes think a little harder, a
Yeah,
little deeper.
Joanne, what comes to mind is not only your expertise but also your creativeness, right? And so we
Mhm.
all have that within us. I mean, when you were telling your story about your father, it made me think about my parents, right? My dad worked at a manufacturing plant, and he built like campers and things like that. And then he designed and developed in our garage his own camper, his own thing, and which was very different from what they were doing at the manufacturing. And the owner of the manufacturing plant encouraged my father to do it. And he said, if you need any supplies from here, take it. Use our stuff if you need anything, and build something. And so
Wow.
my dad started building those toppers that go on top of trucks, which you see them today. They just slide right on, and they're on those. And then he started building a bigger camper, and he started developing that, doing more of that. But that was taking not only his creativeness, but also his need, because such a large family, to support his family. He created his own business. My mother had a talent of sewing, and so she was making things for the boats and things like that she was doing, like canvases that go over, and doing all that. She would get these old ones, and then she'd use them as a pattern, and then she'd start making more things. And she ended up starting her own business doing, upholstering and doing and working for the trade, because she made all the cushions for all the campers, all of those kind of things. So the our RV lot here in town, which is famous for our CJ Stoles and stuff, they were she was making all of the cushions for that, all the stuff like that before she passed away, unfortunately. But she developed her own thing. So again, it's taking what you have, right? The skills that you have, and then being creative about that, because sometimes we don't realize that it's not just about the skill we have, but what the heck we going to do with it, right? We got to be creative and think out of the box sometimes, and that's how we can start monetizing, right? Because we have to begin to start diversifying and monetizing and making money, because we cannot, unfortunately, the electric company does not let us put the lights on without paying them. So
Well, I also think it's interesting with what your parents did, because Cece, you used to sell RVs.
yeah.
And so that's another part of all this that we're talking about. You do need to be creative, but you also need to then get out and sell it. And one of the things I think that holds almost everybody back, if not the number one thing, is limiting beliefs.
Hmm.
Because I think a lot of times people do. I mean, I know so many people that are still just say working at their 9 to 5 job and they don't like it, but they don't believe they could do anything else. They don't believe that they're worthy to start something. So I really think we should just hit a little bit on more. What is a limiting belief? And in my world, what had happened many years ago is I started asking myself this throughout the day when I would hear my, you know, how you have sometimes repetitive thoughts that come up like, who do you think you are? Where I grew up, they would say, you think you're it. And what that meant was that you think you're better than everybody else. And so you started to think, oh, I better shrink back and not share my ideas. But I think a limited belief starts with to overcome it is ask yourself, do I really believe that? Or is that something I've always been told? And it is so amazing to me as I do that, and I continue to do that, is finding that most of the stuff we don't really even believe. We just bought into somebody else's limiting belief. And especially depending again where how we grew up, because a lot of times it is the environment. And if you weren't raised with parents that were, outgoing or creative, or even let's just face it, sometimes when it's also even just for an example with me, because I was a woman or I am a woman, I wasn't, I am. Um, back then too, women didn't do these things. I mean, I literally remember men saying to me, what do you know? You're just a girl. What do you know? You're just a kid. And so sometimes it can even be something as simple as that holds you back thinking, And so then, for example, me, I would start putting my hair up under a hat. I would wear my dad's coveralls. And people always called me Joe. So many people thought I was my dad's son. And it seemed like they accepted me more as the boy, in this case in the garage, so it depends where it is, but even when I went into sales of computers, they would still say that to me, what do you know, you're just a girl. So I think a lot of times they don't even realize why do they think like that, but they were probably raised that the man can do these things. And again, I'm not knocking anybody, I'm just saying let's start questioning, what causes these limiting beliefs. Do we really believe them? Because the only way to expand our beliefs is to question the ones we already have and then be brave. Like this afternoon, we're also going to be talking on another show about, like, for an example, Cece writing a book. She might have had the limiting beliefs that who is she to think she's an author? And she overcame that. So we'll be talking about that on the next show. But I just want you to know it really is only up to us. Nobody can actually change it except us. And a lot of times too, it's who you hang out with. I'm not going to kid you, because if you hang out with a lot of naysayers, because they don't mean to, but sometimes I feel like they're afraid that you're going to run ahead of them in so many ways, like writing a book or having an author, being an author, that you're going to leave them behind.
Hmm.
And they don't want you to excel, and they don't even realize why they're doing it. So I don't say this to put them down, but I find when they weren't brave enough to do it, when you do it, it can really concerns them because they want you to stay where they're at and comfortable.
Mhm.
So just be aware of that too. It could be that too.
Yeah,
But
I think that a limit. When I think about a limiting belief, I think about putting myself in a box, right?
mm-hmm,
So I'm kind of a visual person, so it makes me think, okay, I've put myself in this box, so I mean, where am I going to be able to go? I'm going to be able to go nowhere. I'm not going to be able to grow and do anything. And then I have to ask myself, why did I put myself in this box? And the most reason, I mean, for me, and I wonder if those of you out there, I'd love to hear you comment, make a comment below and let us know. But for me, it's fear. It's fear of looking maybe foolish. It's fear of maybe not knowing enough, not being enough. Again, that someone's put that lid on me and said, you're not capable of doing something. How do they know I'm not capable of doing it? We haven't given it a shot. Let's give it a shot.
mm-hmm,
You know what I mean?
mm-hmm,
So I think that anytime we hear that little voice that starts questioning us on whether
mm-hmm.
we can do something or we can't do something, I think then we need to realize we're putting ourselves in a box. We are doing it to ourselves. No one's doing it for us. We are doing it to ourselves. So we have to, break out of that, step out of that, and step out of the fear and be able to do something that we want to do. And I think that's a lot of times when we're not successful, when we're not monetizing, I think it's because we don't feel that we're worthy enough, or maybe what we're doing is not good enough in which to ask for payment of. I suffered for this for years. Like, what am I doing? How could I ask for money? How could I ask for money for people to, advertise and to be on the show and do different stuff like that when
Mm-hmm.
kind of learning the ropes myself? How can I ask them to support me to do this? Well, the reality is when you got a good thing, when you got a good, when you're on a good train, right? When you're on that you're going down that way and everything is good, you want to grab a hold of that, right? And so people want to grab a hold of you because they see that you're on the way up. They see that you're inspired. You're ready to be able to move forward. So it is okay to ask for monetization as you go forward. Ask for funds as you go forward and you're building something because they want to be part of something, right? I would much rather be part of something than being part of nothing, you know?
Right.
Yeah, I would much rather do that. So, yeah, and we'll talk. The other half of the show, we'll talk some different ideas for you to be able to monetize and maybe help you make some money in your business and doing what you're doing now. But it's being creative, getting out of the box, right? Stop that, as my mom used to say, that stinking thinking.
Yep.
Stop that, and that's really what's holding you back. Because I mean, we look around us like Joanne, your parents were such an inspiration. Your father, maybe the work he did was not rocket science, wasn't something, all bows and pretty and all this stuff, but he made a doggone good living for it. And he kept his family fed and a roof over their head. And back in those days, that was an important thing. And it's an important thing today in today's economy. It's an important thing today. So yeah, I, I'll get off my soapbox, but
No, no, I'm with you. And I loved what you said, a couple things that, when you said you closed the lid on yourself,
hmm
that's a really good visual. When we are starting to have a limited thought, realize you are putting yourself in a box and closing the lid. I always think of a box, but I didn't think of the lid because then you can't even get out.
right.
So do that. And then the other thing is, I believe that we don't realize it, but we just have to continually asking ourselves about the limiting beliefs and then move forward. And when you were saying about moving forward with other people, a lot of times it really is a new group of people that inspire you, that want you to succeed. So I really believe not just be careful of who you're currently hanging out with, but start to go to more meetings or more events where people are where you want to be, because they'll often help pull you up and encourage you versus people that are pulling you down. So I really do think that's important to realize. Just for an example, recently I was at Podfest well, it was in January, and it was in people were talking, but one of the keynote speakers is actually a member of Link to Expert, and her name is Orly Amor. And her ending keynote was all about monetizing your presentations. Like many of the people there, are either a podcaster or wanted to be on somebody's stage or whatever. And she wanted, we had a room full of people, hundreds of people, and she asked, how many of you get paid to speak? And almost everybody said, no, none, you know. And she asked why, and they said, oh, basically, I don't know. And then we turned it around and asked her, how many times do you get paid to speak? She says, all the time. We said, how? And she said, because asked. I asked to be paid. I did not accept that they were going to not pay me. And I feel like that also, after the break, we'll talk more about it, but ask, because sometimes we don't have it because we don't ask. And sometimes we don't ask because we don't either feel worthy, or the other people don't even think, why would I pay you? And what I've many, many, many times asked people that when we're helping them get gigs, how many of you people come to work for free? And the executive usually looks at me like, none. Why? I said, well, so why would you expect somebody with this type of expertise that took 10 years or more to learn it and share it with you in a couple hours in your team to do that for free?
Mm-hmm.
So I really feel like after the break, we'll talk more about the different areas of expertise that you can actually create products and services. But I think the big part we want to stress is don't be afraid to ask, because you really did spend a lot of time on money on your education and your, learning that expertise and actually just sharing it with people. Why would you think that you wouldn't? But I'll just give you a quick hint about that. I find a lot of experts, because it comes so easy to them, that particular area of expertise, they don't always believe it's really special, but it is, because just because it comes easy for you doesn't mean it does for everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, again, it's back to the worthiness of it. Do you
Hmm.
feel like, what you're providing is worth, some money, right? And,
Yes.
and I think we have to understand. And then when you decide, and I think this is something you and I have had conversation on many, many times over the years, because we've been doing our business for a long time, is like, how much, right? So how much do we think, what will we truly think our value is? And I think all about, monetizing, is really truly about understanding. Of course, I think we have to understand, what the market goes for, what people are able to really actually pay. But the reality is what you really truly believe that you're worth, right?
Mhm.
That's the dollar figure, right? And the reason why you're charging, I know a lot of things like on our network, I keep the cost down minimum. I try to keep it very, very minimum. And it's not because I don't think we're worthy. I mean, believe me, I think we could really rock it and I probably could really double my fees, triple my fees, or whatever. But the reality is I want it to be accessible to those that are starting out, those that are really trying to do it. So that's really what I'm going for. Probably when I retire, heaven help me, when I do retire, then maybe the prices are going to zing. So you better get on board now while I'm at the helm, because who knows what will happen when I retire. But here's the thing: it's like it's truly what you want. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about actually with some revenue streams that can help you to be able to help your business. And maybe some of you thought about, some of you maybe you haven't thought about. So we want to help you with that. And I know that Joanne Weiland, and she is the president of linktoexpert.com. She's been doing this business for many, many years. And one thing we do want to say is really just keep doing what you're doing, right? You want to keep doing what you're doing. I've been doing my business for a long time. I could have given up a million and zillion times, but you just got to keep doing what you're doing, because you've got to love what you're doing, to be able to be
Yes.
successful in it. And I know Joanne does. So if you guys haven't heard about linktoexpert.com, please go to it, linktoexpert.com. I joined it. It has definitely changed my business. So I totally believe in it. So check it out, linktoexpert.com. We are on the Business Showcase right here on WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. And this particular show is called Link to Expert Business Showcase. And we're talking about monetizing your expertise. So now if you want to learn about different revenue streams, things that might help you in your business, we're going to talk about that. The first part of the show, we talked really about why you want to do what you do, share what you do, and monetize what you do. And so now we're going to give you some really great tips on being able to diversify your business. So stick around with us. I am Cece Shatz. I have my good friend Joanne Weiland with me, and we'll be right back, everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Link to Expert Business Showcase. I am one of your hosts, Cece Shatz. I have my good friend Joanne Weiland here with me. And you are on the newstreamingnetwork.com, which is home of Going Solo Media, Going Bold Media, right? We want to inspire those around us. And then, of course, our wonderful radio station, WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network. We want to thank you guys for joining us. You missed the first part of the show. You need to go back and listen to it because what we're talking about is very important. We're talking about monetizing your expertise. We all have an expertise out there. We all are creative. We're inspirational. All of us have something to be able to give and offer other people. And so we were talking about, kind of what holds us back, what can move you forward. And so if you missed the first part of the show, please go back and listen to it because I think it's important for you. And now we're going to talk about some things that you can actually do for your business that maybe you didn't think about, that you could create a few revenue streams. I know, Joanne, you and I have talked about that you can't just have one revenue stream, right? You have to, in business today, in the world of business today, you really do have to diversify and you have to create different revenue streams for yourself. And also it creates like an inspiration for other people as they're looking at your business. They're thinking, you're doing this, oh, you're doing that. So yeah, so it's good. So I'm going to leave it over to you a little bit. And then of course I will interrupt as I always do.
Oh, that's okay. Well, I'm excited because of the fact that I call it downloads. I feel like I receive these downloads from God. And over the years, I have actually have 181 multiple streams of income. So of course we would never be able to talk about 181 things, but I just want to give you some of the topics and then get into a couple examples that will help you. But you can, contact us anytime for more information. But like expert affiliations. A lot of times we don't realize it, but we can create things like membership sites. We can have sponsorships like Cece talked a little bit about earlier, advertising. So there's so many ways that we can be affiliate with other people and benefit from each other's stuff, as well as this is the one that I think most people will understand. And when we were using Cece's book as an example earlier in the show, people don't even realize it, but when you have an area of expertise and you start with a book, you can convert it into so many other products, ebooks, how-to manuals, how to get it done book, even a book of your blogs, like maybe you actually been a blogger. I mean, I had one guy that literally created blogs regularly, and then he would receive their information back because a blog, you do that for a two-way conversation. And he actually created a book from his blogs, and he pre-sold 2,000 copies before it even came out. But it was because of the fact he was engaging with people that were interested in that particular topic. Just as an example, cartoon books, e-comic books, wallpapers, presentations, or we said the how-to manuals, but of course ebooks, everything, video blogs, you name it, there is starter kits. I mean, you can see I have dozens of them, but I just want to touch on a couple of other things. You can bundle them with other people's products because of the fact that maybe it's something that would be better for somebody to have your book and somebody else's book or something else somebody else created. So bundled packages. Um, do just joint ventures like Cece and I are doing this together today. For an example, you can have, TV, radio, podcast shows like we do, and that way you don't have all of it on yourself. We split up the responsibilities. Cece's an amazing producer. I could never do that. That's not my specialty, but that's again why you do like to work with other people. She's good at something that I'm not. I hopefully bring in things that, she prefer not to do. And we even have a third person, a VA that helps with some of the other parts that neither of us want to do. And she loves doing it. She couldn't imagine being on camera, for an example. So there's all kinds of things. But I also think that so many times we don't realize, but when we are the expert, that we can create something like ask the consultant, ask the coach, ask the author, ask the publisher, whatever you are doing, the ghostwriter, you can actually create something where people would pay to call you and ask you questions because of the fact that you really are the expert at that. And so I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize with their area of expertise that they could do that. And something really, it's not simple, but sometimes whatever we're doing, we could even create promotional products about it. Like for an example, when Cece and I did go to Podfest, for an example, we created these T-shirts that just says, "Would you like to be on TV?"
It was so cute.
Would you like?
We got to tell everybody about these T-shirts.
I should have bumped
It was so fun. She got these T-shirts and she goes, "Want to be on TV?" And we wore, and she wore them more than I did. But we wore them everywhere. We had more people say, "What's this about?" Yes, we want to be on TV. What's this?
It's that simple. And then on the back, we had want to create multiple streams of income. I
Yeah.
mean, but it could also be, your logo or your tagline or whatever on T-shirts, polo shirts,
Mhm.
jewelry, pillowcases, sheets, candy. I mean, I have tons and tons of 181 things that you can do to create this blankets. I mean, recently I went to a trade show and this guy gave me a blanket with the name of his bank on it, and it's cozy. So you, when you're warmed up to it, you think of that particular person or brand that's on there. I had one lady actually at Podfest give me bras that she had made, you know and she just knew that she was targeting women, so she would give them these inserts for their bras. I mean, you name it, but think of who your audience is, because this is the one I really wanted to get to. Okay, think of what you like to do, but also what do your your clients that you like to work with, or ideal clients, even if you're not working with them already, what do they like to do? Because a lot of times we don't realize, but we can have things like coffee with the expert, lunch with the expert. That's kind of common. But what if you had things like cocktails with the expert in a limo? What if you had a train ride with the expert? Around the world with an expert. I mean, Cece's always doing these, travel things. A day at the spa with an expert. I mean, I have again tons of these. But think about what you would like to do, but also what you think your clients would like to do. Because remember, your client's going to be paying you to learn from your expertise, but they can also write it off because of the fact that it is a business trip, a business event, a
Mhm.
business meeting. So think about again what is important to you, what is important to them, how you can share it in a unique way that other competitors of yours aren't doing. I mean, I think we don't realize it, but like last week, I was working with an expert from, not that that matters, but she's pretty new at coaching, and I asked her how she's doing it, and she told me, and she's doing one-on-one, and she does 12 weeks of coaching, and I'm not knocking it, but it takes her a lot of time to do it. So I asked her, just as an example, that's really simple, what if you would do group coaching? Because that way you could get 5 or 10 people, how many ever, it depends on what you're coaching, but with multiple people. So you're getting 5 or 10 people in this case, that I'm using as an example, to pay instead of just that one-on-one, that you're spending that 1 hour with that one person and getting that one. So sometimes it's even just as simple as that. And maybe it's even combination, because maybe you do feel like she felt like she needed to talk one-on-one with the people because she was teaching them how to be on camera and not be nervous. And so maybe she did need the one-on-one time, but you could still incorporate it that you, when you're sharing the tips, but then have the one-on-one as well. I mean, we just have to again think of what we're doing, how we're doing it, why we're doing it like that. What else could we do to make it even better for the client? What can make it better for me that I don't have to work 24/7? Because a lot of us too, when we do love what we do work a lot. And I think that's great, but just can you imagine converting a lot of this with the products that we were talking about, like the ebooks and stuff that you sell while you're sleeping? Because
Mhm.
don't again, we said many of us are boomers. We're not all boomers. No matter what age you are, don't you want to have more fun in your life? Don't you want to do more things that you love? So these are the types of things when we're creating these multiple streams of income. Maybe look at your bucket list if you ever created a bucket list, and maybe you could incorporate some of your bucket list into your streams of income. Because, like, if you always wanted to travel to Australia, you find somebody that wants to go with you, and just say half a day, then you spend the day coaching them in Australia, the other half of the day or half of the trip you coach them, and the other half you explore. Who knows? The sky's the limit. There's nothing that we can't do. We just have to get over our limiting beliefs and realize we're worth it, as well as our expertise that we spend all this time and money and energy putting together really will benefit so many people, because you really do have to give value too. I don't want to leave without reminding, we do want to have value. And so, and I'm not trying to get step on your limiting beliefs, but you when you're really giving, and like Cece said, at the right
Mhm.
fee or whatever. So maybe talk to other people, because my favorite sport is masterminding. Get together with a bunch of people maybe and just brainstorm about these things. And so I really think it's important. And I just am going to get off my high horse about that, because the last thing we want to share before our time runs out is that you really do then have to market it. Because again, you can do all these things, but if nobody knows it, so we just want to remind you that you do, once you figure out what to what you want to do, which ways can you monetize it. And we a lot of times we have to have campaigns or funnels or whatever. For an example, CC and I are right now working with top tier CRM, because of the fact that we know too, part of this is that we have to consistently and frequently stay in front of people with, for an example, this business showcase show, the her other shows and all this stuff. So we are doing our best to work with them to automate as many things as possible, have landing pages, have funnels, have announcements, have SMS instead of just email. All these things that we're putting together too, because we also understand that not only do you have to have these multiple streams of income, but if nobody knows it, it really doesn't matter. And then we have to be able to work with other people. So we also work with other affiliates that we can work with them, that they do this for us, we do that for them. We get in front of their audience, they get in front of our audience. We compensate each other. So I'm not trying to overwhelm you. So, but I just want you to know it's not once and done. It's ongoing, but it's so well worth it, because you're going to feel terrific that you're doing what you love and loving what you do.
Right. And you're able to, keep the lights on. I think that's important. When we're
Right.
monetizing, we want to be able to make money. And when I was listening, there was a couple things I thought, oh, I could maybe do that myself. And so Joanne always surprises me, and I learn every day from her. So it's amazing. So there again, who do you know out there that you can learn from, right? And really kind of pick their brain and talk to them about different things and listen to shows like this, because there's other shows out there. I do have another business show, Biz Buzz Igniting Success, and there's plenty of other business shows. Ask Jason Weiss, he's out there. So there's a lot of different avenues that you can go in. But we are going to be doing a show about AI and marketing. We've got a wonderful gentleman, Tony's going to be coming on. So we want to make sure you're aware that that show is going to be out there. That will help you tremendously, I think, as you move forward and you're thinking about your marketing. One thing about marketing, it just never stops and it constantly changes, right? And so we have to constantly keep our fingers on the pulse of that as business owners. So that is something that I think that we need to definitely do. And that will also continue your program of being able to put together a plan for you to be able to monetize. So I would really advise you to watch these shows, watch them once, watch them twice, maybe watch them 3 times, because there may be something that you miss in between. The other thing is when you're watching the shows, sometimes you may not be at that point at the time at your business or whatever you're watching. Go back and listen to them again. If you find individuals that you enjoy and you connect with, listen to their shows over and over again, because what you'll be surprised is that maybe what you listen to today isn't going to affect you, but later on you'll think, what was that show that I heard something about blah, blah, blah. I'm ready for that now. So I can go back and listen to that. I experienced that a great deal as I was healing through divorce. There was a lot of things that I listened to that didn't really, I was mad. I didn't really, it wasn't gonna help me at all, because I was just so fuming over things. But as I began to learn more about myself and understand myself and be able to grow within, I realized that as the anger started to subside, I, could start getting control of my life. And so the shows that I listened to, I went back and listened to again, and they made a world of difference for me. So I hope that you'll do that here with our show, Link to Expert. And we talk about both business and we talk about good reads. When we talk about good reads, there are really some really great books, not only just for fun, but for business that might help you be able to move forward.
Yeah,
So
speaking
this
of
is,
that, we actually have a couple people that are going to help them with what you're talking about.
yeah.
Just wanted to quick hit on three things that briefly that with the AI, Tony Rockcliffe will be on uh,
Mhm.
about AI, as well as Top Tier that I just mentioned, Top Tier CRM. We're going to have them on, and they actually right now we actually Cece and I scored a deal with them that if you purchase it now, you get 80% off. And it's for a lifetime. Many people are paying hundreds of dollars for a CRM every month. We got them down to do it first for our guests for $60. So if you're interested in that, please let us know. And the third is Angela Heath is going to be on soon, and she's going to help us to how to write your book. And
Mhm.
it's really important because she really helps people. She puts together all kinds of information to make it easy for you to do that. So she'll be on soon. And so we just always want to look for people that can help you like they help us because we don't do all this by ourselves either. So
No, absolutely not. So I want to make sure that we give you our contact information. So when you're deciding that you want to, move forward, do something different, or you have some questions, you'll be able to contact us. So you can contact Joanne at info@linktoexpert.com. That's linktoexpert.com. And then, of course, me, I have a new email. Of course, I have the normal Going Solo Network at gmail.com, but I also have the New Streaming Network at gmail.com. So you can contact me there at New Streaming Network at gmail.com. Well, this has been a great show. We could probably go on for a lot longer, but we can't because we're on a time crunch. So, but anyhow, any last words, Joanne, you want to share?
yeah, I just want to thank everybody because I really want you to know we've all been there. We're all in this together. Let's help each other. Like I say about collaborating and helping each other because that makes all the difference. And if you ever want to get exposure to tens, even hundreds of thousands of people, call us because we have so many ways that we can do this: TV, radio, podcast show, email blasts, newsletters, press releases, blogs, you name it. We help you distribute your information to the people that can hire you. So thank you.
Yeah, I agree with that. And you know what? You're worthy. I mean, you are worthy. You've created a wonderful business. Those of you that have a business out there, if you need some help along the way, that is what we are here for. So please, this is why we do the show. And so just reach out to us. Maybe we could try to give you some tips and things like that to be able to help you. And because we want you to make money, we want you to keep on with your business. We want you to keep sharing your expertise with the world. And so if we can help you in any way, we definitely want to do that. So please reach out and contact us. So, you guys, it's been wonderful being here with you today. We've been talking about monetizing your expertise which most certainly you should be able to do. And this is the Link to Expert Business Showcase. I am one of your hosts, Cece Shatz. I have my good friend here, Joanne Weiland, with me. You are listening to the newsstreamingnetwork.com, home of the Going Bold media and the Going Solo media, and our wonderful radio station, WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. So if you want to be seen, be heard, and be known, you most need to contact us here at the Link to Expert Business Showcase. So I am Cece. Joanne, we're going to bow out now, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.